right, Algebra 1, we're moving on to some work problems. We are in lesson 7-8, and these word problems involving work, we are going to remember one thing, and that is the number 1. Our essential question is, can you solve work problems? Example 1 says, Teresa can paint her room in 4 hours. Her work rate is the part of the job she can do in 1 hour. What is her work rate? So obviously if she could paint it in 4 hours and her work rate is in 1 hour, her work rate is 1/4. So let's move on and see how these word problems start to come alive. One printing press can finish a job in 8 hours. The same job would take a second press 12 hours. I meant to change colors. Sorry about that. How long would it take both of the presses together? So what we have to remember is that the work rate of the first job is 1/8. The work rate of the second job is 1/12. So even though it talks about 8 hours and 12 hours, the time is talking about how long would it take for them to work together. So I'm going to call that time X. So notice when I multiply across, we have our total column here. Notice when I multiply across, I get X/8 and X/12. So we've talked about with these word problems and the total column, this column right here, we've talked about doing different things. We can add them, we can set them equal, we can subtract them. So there's a lot of different scenarios that we've done. But this time we're going to take those two and make it equal to 1. Remember I told you the key word is 1 today? So we're going to make that equal to 1 job. Now, what is the common denominator between 8 and 12? Good, we know it's 24. So I'm going to multiply everything through by 24. And 8 goes into 24 3 times. 12 goes into 24 2 times. And that's equal to 24. So when I add, I get 5x is equal to 24. And when I divide each side through by 5, x is equal to 4 4/5. Now, we don't typically say, hey, I'm coming over in 4 4/5 of an hour. We probably wouldn't come over in such a weird time anyway. But let's talk about transferring this 4/5 to something over 60. So remember, to get from 5 to 60, I had to multiply by 12. So notice that the answer is 4 hours and 48 minutes. Okay, so the 48, we would have to transfer that over. Now, if you put your answer as 4 4/5, would you get it wrong? I don't think you would get it wrong, but just be aware that sometimes they're going to show it as 4 hours and 48 minutes. So if it was a multiple choice, you'd want to be aware of that. All right, so let's see if we answered the question. It said, how long would it take for both presses to work together? Our answer is 4 hours and 48 minutes. So it would take us 4 hours and 48 minutes. Well, that makes sense because this one's working for 8 hours. 1 job in 8 hours, and this one's working 1 job in 12 hours. So the work rate, 1/8 and 1/12, would combine to be 4 hours and 48 minutes. All right, let's move on to the next one. The next one says, an installer can carpet a room in 3 hours. So notice I called the installer I, and the installer can carpet a room in 3 hours. An assistant, I called the assistant A, takes 4.5 hours to do the same job. If the assistant helps for 1 hour and then is called away, how long will it take the installer to finish? Let's talk about what we know. We know the work rate for the installer is 1/3. I know the work rate for the assistant is 1. And you know what? My students use 4.5. And although that looks weird, it actually worked. So I was kind of proud of them. The time that the assistant worked, it told us he only worked for 1 hour and then he walked away. But the other guy, the installer, didn't he work his own time plus the 1 hour with the assistant? He did. So it says if the assistant helps for 1 hour and then is called away, how long will it take the installer to finish? So if I distribute here, I get, well, let's just put t plus 1 all over 3 because we're just multiplying. And if I multiply here, I get 1 over 4.5. And remember, I have the installer's work rate and time, which is t plus 1 over 3. And I'm going to add that to my assistant, and that is going to equal 1 job. They complete 1 job. And this is why it worked. A common denominator between 3 and 4.5 was 9. So that worked out really nicely. So 3 goes into 9 3 times, and we do have to distribute. 4 goes into 9 2 times, and that equals 9. When I distribute, I get 3t plus 3 plus 2 equals 9. 3t plus 5, we're adding like terms, equals 9. When I subtract 5 over, I get 3t is equal to 4, where t is equal to 4 divided by 3. So remember that this is 1 hour. Well, it's 1 1/3. A third of an hour is how long? Good, it's 1 hour and 20 minutes. So the answer to this question, how long will it take the installer to finish? It's going to take him an additional 1 hour and 20 minutes.